All right, folks, John Henning here with the Franchise Radio Show. And today we're joined by some folks over at Floor Coverings International, Albert Hermans, Vice President of Franchise Development, and Amy Schlosser, Senior Director of Franchise Development. Thank you so much, guys, for jumping on with me today.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. We're happy to be here.
Let me start out with a little bit about you guys. I'd like to get into a bit of the personal side before we get into the business. Okay. If Amy, if you could just start out with us here and just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where do you live, that kind of thing. And then we'll jump over to Albert here in a second.
Awesome. Great question, because it is all about who you're working with. I totally agree with that. So Amy Schlosser, I live here in the Atlanta area. I'm married. I have 2 kids that are finally out of the house, which is very exciting. It happened finally this year. Yep, a son and a daughter.
Okay.
I've been in Atlanta since the early 80s, originally from Wisconsin. So that's where you might hear my accent. I don't sound very Southern. Yep, and just love to go. We bought a lake house a couple years ago, and that's what I do every weekend. I'm at the lake floating and boating and just enjoying, my husband and I are just enjoying the empty nesting.
I was going to say, now that hopefully your kids don't listen to the interview because you sounded really excited that they're not there anymore. So I'm just saying. Okay.
They know I'm excited.
Yeah, we're empty nesters too. My son's 25 and my wife's children they're grown and gone now too. So I get it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Albert, how about you, buddy?
So our corporate office is in Atlanta. Amy works out of the corporate office, but I technically am a remote worker. So I'm in New Jersey, born and raised in New Jersey. Went to school at Rutgers University, and right now I've got my wife and 2 daughters that are very much in the nest at 1 and 3 that keep us plenty busy. So where if I'm not at my office doing what I got to do, I'm wrangling a diaper or chasing someone somewhere.
Good deal. Good deal. I actually live just outside of Philadelphia. I'm a Penn State guy, so we will not hold that against you. We'll go ahead and let you continue on the interview here. So
thanks, John. I apprate that. Yeah, I much appreciate
no
it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, right? Let me ask you guys, you got, 2 completely different types of areas, backgrounds, that kind of thing. Walk me through, Amy, how did you get into franchising? Like you were in Wisconsin, which I noticed the accent right away. Now you're in Atlanta. How did you get into franchising?
Sure. Well, again, it's about who you know. So Tom Wood, our CEO, I went to church with him and he put an ad and said, "Hey, do you know anybody?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do." And it was interesting because I didn't know franchising existed. I actually, when I look back at my past, my father owned Piggly Wiggly, so that was a franchise, but I didn't know it was a franchise. My husband owned his own business and he was approached to come under a franchise. I didn't know it. So it's been just a really incredible thing to see franchising and how it can change people's lives. It's been super fun. I worked with a startup. I worked for an architectural firm, and so I had startups, so I understand what it was to start a business, but I didn't know on franchising, and I've been in it now 8 years, and I just love what it can do for people and change their lives.
Good deal. How about you, Albert? How'd you get into franchising?
I lucked myself into franchising. So I've always owned small businesses, and the second small business I started was a group-led fitness business. And just by happenstance, my partner and I said, "Hey, we're doing really great. We should continue to grow this. Let's look into franchising." So we read every book, went to every seminar, watched every YouTube video that we could about the world of franchising, and found a franchising attorney, drafted and franchise disclosure document, and grew that single fitness location to roughly 65. And when I was at a juncture where I was looking for my next thing after we grew that fitness brand, I met the great people at Floor Coverings International. I could tell you why I wound up coming over here, but ultimately now I've been here for 8 years. So the thing that I love about franchising is that it gives people who maybe never really thought of business ownership as a career option or a methodology to create income for their family. It gives them the path to do it, but then shows them that not only is it about creating income, but you create wealth as well, right? You have an asset that you can sell, and then you also have the ability to control your lifestyle and pick when you want to take off, not have to put in time, right?
Sure.
Which again, most people don't even know it's an option.
No, you're right. You nailed it right there. I would say probably 90, 95% of the people that look at franchises never really thought about being their own CEO of their small business, right? You know?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Let's jump into the company a little bit, and we'll talk about the history of the company. Walk us through how did the company, how was it formed, and walk us through to get us to where we are today here in mid 2022.
So the company was actually founded, Floor Coverings International was founded in the late 80s, 1988 to be specific. And it was a family-owned company that they essentially built a franchise that was work from home. Maybe you wanted, if you owned a contracting business and you wanted an opportunity to sell flooring on top of your contracting services, you'd purchase into the franchise that was Floor Coverings International. Now,
Okay.
all the while in the late 80s, a company was formed with a different vision called First Service. And First Service is an umbrella company that owns some of the more popular home service brands that are out there in the marketplace. Like you might have heard of California Closets,
Hmm.
Pro Painters, Paul Davis Restoration. And as
Yep.
part of First Service's mission to be the premier in service in the home services, to use that word twice, but in two different ways.
Right.
As in part of their mission, they were looking to acquire brands that would put them into some different industries, still part of the home, but just different industries. And back in 2005, First Service bought Floor Coverings International. Now, the interesting thing that I find about the reason why they bought the business had nothing to do with the overall mission and vision that we now have as an organization. And it just had everything to do with finding a methodology to get into the flooring industry. So the
Okay.
flooring industry, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit, but it's got some really unique factors as compared to maybe painting or roofing or some other industries. And they found little Floor Coverings International that they purchased. And Tom Wood, who's our CEO now, was our CEO at day one. And they adjusted the mission and vision of the organization where right now, our mission as an organization is to be the number one customer service experience inside of this huge flooring industry. And just a spoiler alert, we currently are. And then number two is we want to build large, profitable, staffed businesses. So quite different than what the original founders had anticipated for the brand, but certainly that falls in line with everything that we do at our sister companies as well.
Good deal. Good deal. Amy, let's jump over to you. Walk our listeners through, kind of what do you guys do? I mean, the name's kind of self-explanatory, but I don't want to jump to any conclusions. And Albert kind of alluded to a little bit of it here, and that's going to lead us into our next question then as well. Walk us through, who is the company and what do you guys do?
Yep. So we do flooring. That is our business. We're really a sales organization. Our franchisees sell flooring to their customers. And as Albert alluded to, that we're the number one experience. And that's because we do everything from showing the customer the product all the way through following up and making sure that installation is done really well. So what we've done is we've changed the way that people buy flooring. Currently, and I'm going to say the female because 80% of the time the female is making the decision in the home.
Okay.
Currently, she has to, if she wants to redo her floors, she has to go to a big box store or a flooring store, and she has to get a little sample and then take it home, and it doesn't look good, and she goes back and forth and back and forth. She doesn't want to do that. Well, what we do is we bring the flooring store to her. So we have mobile showrooms. Inside those mobile showrooms are 3,000 SKUs. So we don't care what she wants to buy. We've got carpet, tile, luxury vinyl, hardwood, whatever she wants to buy, we're able to show her that product, large sample sizes in her home with her furniture, with her lighting, and to help her make a decision. What we also do is we're able to do that with one visit because we have all of the technology. We're able to go in, talk to her, find out what she's interested in, help her pick out exactly what's going to make her excited about her flooring. We're able to measure everything. We have a tablet. we call them design associates. Those are our salespeople. They
Mhm.
will put all of that information into the tablet, and they're able to present a proposal right there in the home. She can sign that tablet, and then we go ahead and we order the product. The great thing again is it's custom. We don't care what she orders because we are then going to order. We don't carry any inventory. And then we also purchase directly from manufacturers. So we also get really good pricing. Then we coordinate with the installers, and we are the contact with the customer. She doesn't have to then coordinate, oh, the installation is coming and when are they coming and how long are they going to be there. We communicate with her. Communication is big for us. We communicate with her, let her know when everything is happening, how long, what she needs to do. The installation is done, we manage that. And then we do what we call our happiness walk, and we walk through and make sure she's 100% satisfied. That's why we're the #1 flooring company in the US and Canada, and we're 4.7 out of 5 stars across Google of all of our franchisees.
Now, Amy, I want to point out something here too, because my very next question was going to be what's unique about your franchise, but I think you already kind of answered that. I want to make sure that our folks that are listening in realize how different that is versus how else it happens in the market. Like you mentioned, she goes to the store, but I would assume there's other companies that sell flooring in the customer's home. But what is it that makes your company unique in that? I think I already know the answer, but I want to make sure to circle back on that for our folks.
Absolutely. And that is, other people bring products to the home, but they do not have the wide variety with them.
Right.
They'll come in with a couple of samples. You say that if you say you want carpet, they're going to come in with a couple of samples. They're also going to sell what they bought a lot of inventory of.
Right.
It's not that custom, wonderful, it feels like an interior designer is in your home.
Okay, great. I assumed that was a combination of those things. I figured that the other companies probably purchased items and then they're trying to sell into that inventory. And because you mentioned several times, we don't care what they buy because we're going to go ahead and order it and bring it in for the customer, right?
Exactly. And that's what our customers enjoy. And that's why our sales process is not pushy. We're there to help her, get the floors of her dreams. And however we can do that to help her, that's what we're able to do.
Yeah, Albert and I understand that 100%. The flooring in my home, I honestly, I couldn't even tell you what kind of floors we have in our house, right? The kind you walk on, right? Like as a guy, it's for me, it's completely different. Actually, we have a lot of hardwood. I happen to know we have hardwood, but that's about it. I couldn't tell you what it is. My wife, she knows exactly what it is, right?
Exactly. I know
Yep.
she does, and what color it is, and what
Yes.
SKU where she got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
How did it match up with the wood on the furniture and all of that type of stuff? It's like completely different. So I really like the idea that and you mentioned something I want to point out. You bring in the large samples, right? It's not this little 2-inch by 2-inch square that I can barely tell what color it is, right?
Exactly.
You're able to show that to them with the actual furniture and in the rooms that's going to match or clash with other items then as well. That's really
we
cool.
have it's a full wonderful consultation, and we move those samples around the room and wherever she wants to look at them. Yes.
Yep. Good deal. Good deal. Now, Albert, back over to you now. I want to talk a little bit about the franchise owner. Amy had mentioned the franchise owner and then having the team and all of that stuff. Can you describe to us, like, who is your target franchise owner? Is this somebody that's, coming in and installing flooring, or tell us a little bit about the average franchise owner?
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, no, at all. To just a short answer to your question, I'd say none of our franchise owners install floors themselves. And I'd also throw in there that I'd say 97% of our franchise owners never thought that they'd ever be in the flooring industry, right? But ultimately, just going back to something I said earlier, because this will set the table to answer the question. Organizationally, we're really clear on our vision. We want to build large staffed businesses. So the reason why we want to build large staffed businesses is because we want the franchise owner that comes into our organization to replace their hopefully really healthy corporate income, build an asset they could sell down the road, but also create a business that gives them lifestyle freedom and flexibility to take long weekends or pick their working hours and things of that nature. And that can't really get done unless you have a business that's staffed. Right? If you're a quote unquote solopreneur, right? The entrepreneur that is by themselves in their business, they really are limited in terms of picking and choosing their working hours and building a business that has equity. So The reason why I say that is because the core skill set we're looking for in a franchise owner is somebody who can lead others. So we have franchise owners from sales management backgrounds, but we also have franchise owners that are chemical engineers or franchise owners that worked in operations and supply chain. But the common thread amongst all of our successful franchise owners is that they can lead a team of people. Now, the good news is we don't need a lot of people. Traditionally, our multi-million-dollar franchise owner would have on their payroll an office manager, so somebody keeping, steering the ship, making sure that air traffic control, everybody's in the right place at the right time. Two salespeople themselves, and then roughly 3 to 5 crews of people that actually wind up installing the floor. So the leadership skills, ability to relate with and lead people from different backgrounds and different skill sets, that's what makes a great owner for us.
Good deal. Well, I thank you for qualifying that too, because when you emphasized staffed businesses, because normally I would think of most contracting style companies or businesses that I'm going to have subcontractors and I'm going to be, bringing folks in as needed, and or maybe even chucking a truck where I'm doing some of it myself, right? Okay.
Yep.
Yep. I've been around a little while. I know who chucking the truck is, right?
Man in a van, chucking a
Man in
truck,
a
right?
van, chucking a truck. Yep. So let's talk a little bit deeper on a day in the life of the typical franchise owner, because we just talked about who they were and what they're good at. What are they doing every day? Like, just take us through just a typical day. Now, I understand that most franchise owners are, quasi like firefighters, right? There's always these couple fires they got to put out, not that stuff. Let's just talk about a normal day of what it looks like in owning a franchise with Floor Coverings International.
Yeah, so I'll speak to that staffed business because there's a ramp up and a learning curve, right? But let's just get that franchise owner, that's in the seat that they intended to be in when they launched the business, right? So they're through their learning curve and they're up in the morning, and traditionally they're meeting their team at their small location. So all of our franchise owners, we're not retail, right? Like Amy talked about,
Right.
one of the big advantages to what we do is creating a shop at home environment. So, however, all of our franchise owners have a small footprint of light industrial commercial space as a place that they can meet with their staff, but also receive materials. So
Sure.
usually there's a garage door, they receive materials there. Anyhow, meet with the staff in the morning. Just a quick little huddle. At that time, usually the installers will show up to the office location, load up their vehicles, head out to the consumers' homes. So the franchisors are huddling with their installation teams, their sales teams. Everybody then goes and disperses for the day, and the franchise owner usually will buddy up with either one of their salespeople for the day. So just doing coaching sessions with their salespeople, or maybe they're out on job sites doing customer check-ins, making sure customers are happy out on job sites. And then at some point in the day, it always is wise as the face of the business and the franchise owner to just look for general opportunities to continue to promote the business within the community. So whether that means grabbing a coffee with a local custom builder or an interior designer or a real estate agent, that networking component is part of every small business. But the people that you network with would be different in the home services. So that's the typical day in life. It's a lot of surrounding yourselves with others that you're leading.
I can see now how that skill set you said you were looking for fits into what you just went through with a day in the life of, right? They kind of go hand in hand, because I can imagine if you've got somebody who wants to, be in the back room all day and, doesn't want to be involved in the day-to-day operation of the business, right? So you're looking for somebody who can lead that team. And you mentioned the word coaching, where they're going to buddy up with the sales team or do those, customer visits to make sure things are going smoothly there. I can see how that would fit right in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a franchise owner of ours that's passionate about building teams, leading teams. When they talk about their career and they're saying one of the most gratifying moments of my career was when I had a team that was doing this, or I brought this person on, and in the beginning they weren't really getting it, and then we worked through it, and then all of a sudden they became a rock star. When we hear those types of stories from prospective franchise owners,
Yeah.
that's when we're like, ooh,
You're getting all excited, right?
yeah, that's one of our guys. Yeah.
All right, good deal. Now, I want to talk about when those folks do first come to you. They raise their hand, say, hey, I'm interested. Maybe they're referred to you or came in through the website from franchise owner, whatever it is. When they come to you in franchising, I've been doing this 18 years. A lot of folks will come to a franchisor and they'll have this misconception about the business, right? Like whether it's what I'm doing every day or what I think I know about the business. And obviously we know as franchise professionals, a lot of times they don't even know what they don't know, right? What's the most common misconception you would say, Albert, that somebody comes to you and they think they know this?
Well, I'll give you from my perspective, and I'll have Amy's input as well. But from my perspective, a lot of people hear flooring business, and the first thing out of their mouth is, "But I can't install floors. I don't want to install floors." Right, Amy? Would you say the same thing?
Exactly, yes.
Do you think that when they come to you, they think they're going to be installing floors every day, right, Amy? Gotcha.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and that is not what our brand is. You're hiring professionals who are trained and skilled in installing floors.
Well, then that leads me to my very next question then. If I'm not installing them and I'm going to have to hire these folks, like how hard is it to find these folks that can actually do the installation? I would imagine that's got to be like the very next question that comes up when you explain to them they're not going to be doing the installs, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's every single candidate's number one question, right? Like you said, it's like, okay, well, if I'm not doing it, then who is? Because I
Right.
don't, I don't want to sit there with a saw. And and ultimately, we pull from a ready-made pool of subcontracted installers that we've got access to, we've got lists of. And the really unique thing about the flooring industry and the folks that do the flooring installation is that this is not day labor, right? A lot of folks have this misconception about managing labor, that it's day labor, and the negative connotations that go along with fly by night, not reliable.
Sure.
They don't know what they're doing. You can't take somebody like that and have them look at a square footage of a room, look at the way one height of one floor is compared to another, angled cuts, things of that nature. When you install flooring, the folks that install flooring, they are trained and they are seasoned professionals. They're not day labor. So that's another misconception of the folks that we do get.
That's great. So they're not accidental floor installers, right? No.
They can get into the industry by accident, but if they're inside of somebody's house installing floors, it ain't no accident. No.
Sure. No, I know exactly what you mean. It reminds me of a real quick story. I didn't realize this talking with you guys. My uncle was an installer for 25 years. And I remember going to a job site and he was doing the angle cuts and the different floor levels. And, it was really intricate work there. You're right. He was a flooring professional, right? That's what he did for
Exactly.
20 years. And he worked for someone else. You're right. I didn't even think about it till you said that.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly right. Yeah.
Good deal. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the industry as a whole, right? Because normally most folks don't just wake up in the morning and say, "Today's the day I'm getting into the flooring industry," right? Um, Nobody does that, right?
No.
Or very few, I would imagine. What would you say is the reason that someone should think about getting into this industry?
So I'll give you three reasons. Number one, it's huge. It's a $116 billion industry. And just to put that dollar number into perspective, when it comes to remodeling the home, there's not a marketplace that's bigger. So why not go, if you're interested in remodeling, if you're a HGTV lover, or the whole idea of helping people transform their homes is appealing to you, well, why don't you go to the biggest marketplace? That'd be the first reason. Huge marketplace. And it's really fragmented. That's the second really interesting thing about the flooring industry. If you take the top 50 flooring companies,
Hmm.
which, by the way, Home Depot, Lowe's, they're in the top 50. They're actually number one and two. So I'm telling you, the biggest players in this flooring industry, this huge industry, and you take the top 50 of them and you aggregate their sales together. John, I'm going to ask you, what percent market share do you think the top 50 flooring companies take up in this entire industry?
I mean, the two companies just named, and there's got to be other companies like them as well out there that have this big market share. I'd have to say at least 40 to 50% of that market is held by the big dogs, right?
You would think the top 50 flooring companies, when you aggregate their sales, they make up a 10% market share.
Wow. So the other 90% is, man in a van, chuck in a truck, everybody. Even there's probably some good people with crews out there too. But
So it's a little bit of that, but mostly it's the side of the highway retail showroom
oh, okay.
that mom and pop owned, right? So
Yeah,
so
sure.
the industry is wildly fragmented. And the third thing that I think is really interesting is the bar for being really good, and we're world class, but the bar for being really good is really low. The funny thing is that the remodeling industry, the flooring industry, is an industry that's known for um, I used the word fly by night before, really poor communication.
Yeah. I was going
People
to say
that
lack of communication was got to be like one of the, so if you just call people back, you're already like two steps above the rest of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
that's
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's so ultimately when we come into the industry as the number one flooring company, and it's not just because we say so or we're we pound our chest and our grandma told us we're great so we're number one,
Right.
um, as measured by net promoter score, if you're familiar with that.
Yep.
So we are bona fide the number one flooring company in North America because what we do is we take business professionals with leadership skills and customer service skills. We put them into a locally owned business where they have high touch with their consumer, and we put them in with business skills into this industry that the bar is so low.
Right.
So that's what's really unique and I think great about this flooring industry is that it, if you want a big marketplace that's easy to capture market share because it's so fragmented, and if you've got business skills, you're already one of the best. It's a great industry to be in.
Well, I'll tell you guys, and I really mean this because I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it, I just wouldn't say it. I wasn't sure how exciting this interview was going to be talking about flooring. Okay. You really opened up my eyes because you named off, like, I'm thinking of the downtown guy with the little retail store. He's a flooring installer that opened a retail store to get customers to come in. And he's an accidental business owner. He's a great guy. I happen to know him, right? And he does well, but he loads up the flooring, goes out with his buddy, and they install the flooring, right? That's his business. And what you just said there, I know from personal experience about the communication scenario, right?
Yep.
When we had those hardwood floors installed that I mentioned earlier, I live by my calendar, right? Okay. So like I'm on time, 5 minutes on early is late, right? And so we had gone through that and we had left him a message about scheduling the appointment. Well, we didn't even hear back for like 2 days to actually schedule the install, right? And I get it, you're busy, but what you mentioned about the communication, I knew that was what you were going to say. I knew it.
Exactly. It doesn't take much. And you know what? This is another thing that I think is really interesting because when you said, look, coming into this interview, John, how exciting could a flooring business be?
Right.
People's perception of the flooring industry, like if you were to close your eyes before you clicked onto this interview and you said, oh, flooring franchise, you'd think the industry is middle-aged men with ripped jeans and paint on their pants.
Right.
Right? Like that's like the mental image of the flooring industry when in all reality, the female of the home who is high style, high design is the one that's directing the industry. So effectively, the industry is so, I believe, so fragmented because it's this industry that's male dominated,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a female consumer.
Sure.
So because of that, the way it's set up, men like to shop at the store, men like to negotiate and haggle on price,
Yep.
men like to, just talk about workmanship and the deal they're going to get.
Right.
Right. So when men
Yeah.
set up this industry, they set up this industry that has this connotation and has all these factors to it, but they set it up for the female consumer who cares about the timeliness, cleanliness, communication, how she feels with these strangers inside of her house moving her
Mm-hmm.
furniture. Right.
Yep.
And so that's what's really unique is that all of a sudden you take business skills and soft skills and put it into this industry and boom, you're an outlier and you're really speaking directly to your core consumer.
Well, I mentioned this earlier in our pre-conversation there, and it seems like this actually fits. So I am going to say it here is that it seems like the industry is over here and you guys are like, it's not that you're just different. It's like you're the only company that actually does it this way. Right.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
and hopefully this interview doesn't reach too many people because we don't want nobody else knowing what we know.
Right. Let's keep it on the DL. Yeah, we won't promote it out there at all. Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, I would say it's probably actually, you said about the bar, but I think what you guys are doing to replicate what you're doing and where you came from, I do believe, because I know how franchising works and what you guys have actually put together, that it would be difficult to replicate what you're actually doing. Right.
Absolutely,
I would
yes.
imagine some of the phrases that come to mind when I think about listening to what you guys are both saying is you're starting them out on third base. You've already taken the black eyes and the bloody noses, and they really just need to hit a solid single to drive the run in. Right.
Absolutely, yes.
That's when I think about your business model, that's the way I think about it. right?
Yeah. And you know what? Service is an easy thing to understand and it's an easy thing to speak to, but it's a really hard thing to execute and execute consistently. But when you take a look around at the companies that are shining stars in our society, they're the ones that put service first. Like there's a reason why people drop 20, 30 grand sometimes to go to Disney when they can go to Six Flags for a couple $100.
Sure.
Or you buy an Apple computer versus an Acer, or
Mhm.
you know, right? I mean, these companies that put the customer experience first, it's again easy to say. Rich Carlton has done it forever, but when you actually deliver, all of a sudden the brand loyalty and everything that comes with it, you're a shining star.
That's great. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some areas. Amy, if you could just walk us through, like, what are some hot areas where you should have a franchise and you're looking for someone from that market to be the one, right? I know you know what those markets are. Can you list off just a few for our listeners?
Sure. So we've got open territory, all across the country in Canada. But there's some areas that we're shocked that we don't have anybody, and that would be Seattle, Des Moines, Iowa, Boston area. Boston would be an incredible area for us. Anything on Long Island, around Detroit, and then Florida. I can say Tampa, Orlando, all the way down to Miami. We've got a lot of territory that would be just great areas. But as we were talking about this, basically anywhere is a good area
Anywhere with
because
floors, right?
everybody has
Yeah.
floors, no matter where they live. But those are some of our hot areas that we'd love to get franchisees there, and we know that they could really do well.
Okay, good deal, good deal. Can we talk a little bit about the due diligence process? It's an industry term, of course, we call it that, but the process that somebody says, "Hey, I'm interested." Walk us through the first couple of steps, as far as you want to go, on what someone would do to learn more. Like, how much are you learning about them? How much are they learning about you?
Yeah, well, John, I think the way that you put it was the way I was going to start. You know, it's a mutual evaluation process because at the end of the day, a good franchise brand, and I say that because not every franchise brand is a good one, right? Just like not every car company is a good one, right? So, but a good franchise brand cares about a mutual fit because ultimately a mutual fit is what's going to lead towards the brand being able to grow, and successful business owners, happy business owners will lead to the brand being able to grow. So we initiate a mutual fit evaluation process where traditionally somebody reaches out to us via email or is introduced to us by referral from someone else. We'll have a first meeting be all about, hey, what are your wants, hopes, dreams? What's got you interested in owning a business? What's your skill set? What have you done professionally? Let's just
Sure.
talk about that. And then we'll dive deeper into the business model. We'll walk them through all the disclosure documents and the X's and O's that could be intimidating. Some other brands just kind of drop it on their lap. We'll walk them through it. And we do other things as it relates to mutual evaluation where we'll have them speak and interview some franchise owners. We'd have them do a personality assessment where we dive a bit more deeply into their strengths. Have them meet with our entire corporate team because it's a marriage, a franchise relationship is. But the funny thing is that during the dating process, they get to know this person on the front end that's part of the franchise development team. But then once they're married, they actually are working with the operations team and the marketing team and the technology team. So we want them to meet all those folks during the dating process as well. So it really is an opportunity for us to, when I say us, I mean the franchisor, to get to know the prospective franchisee. And if we feel like we've got a match, we're both going to be set up for a really good future together. And if at any point in time either one of us feels like we don't have a match, we're both set up for a really good future together, although we won't be working together.
Right. Good deal. I want to talk a little bit about the opening process. If we go through the process of the mutual evaluation, which I knew is exactly what you were going to say based on what we've talked about today already. That's why I threw that one out there for you. What how long is it from the time that I say go and I'm approved until I'm actually open and operating? Is that 30 days, 30 months? Like, what does it look like on the opening process?
So it can be really quick. And I say that to start because some people say, well, I'm waiting on this, or I want to secure a territory, but I can't open until a certain period of time or what have you. But let's
Sure.
just say it's the person that comes in that's got nothing else that they've got to worry about except how quickly can they get the business started. Um, that process is roughly 6 weeks at the very minimum. And the reason why, again, I'm saying roughly, and I'm not giving an exact answer, John, is because we host 8 training classes throughout the year, and we design our program so that when the person goes through training, their business is open. In
Oh,
order
I
for
see.
for
Yeah.
that to happen, they get enrolled in, we call it boot camp, but I love the analogy of slingshot program. So they get enrolled in our slingshot program so that if you think about pulling back a slingshot, they're going for roughly, I said about 6 weeks, so call it a month. They're pulling back the slingshot where they're learning about the industry, learning about the products that we sell, doing some basic logistical items to set up their business, like getting their vehicle leases done and their vendor account set up and business checking account. So we're pulling back that slingshot so that when they get through training and they open their doors, we release the slingshot and they're in customer visits that very first week coming out of training. So that's why it's depending on when you become a franchise owner,
Sure.
kind of where the training calendar lines up. But we're taking the time before you go through an official training class to pull back the slingshot so that once you're through that training, it's green light all the way.
Good deal. Good deal. It sounds like you really have a really structured process there for them to help them really get hit the ground running type thing, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's according to our data, and now remember, our parent company's been franchising for over 30 years. Our data tells us that folks that get off to a fast start
Hmm.
usually are the ones that stick around for a long time and get off to a really good, or then have a really great tenure with the franchise brand. So the slow out the gates, or the false start sometimes when people have, that doesn't usually correlate with the best future, according to what we've seen.
Oh, good deal. Let's talk a little bit about the numbers as much as we can. I want to disclose, everybody has to evaluate the numbers on their own and take a look at the item 19 and the item 7 in the franchise disclosure documents. So as much as we can, let's talk about the cost to start the franchise, and then maybe dig in just a little bit on the item 19, which is the financial performance information.
So I'll start with the investment. So the investment is roughly 190,000, and the things that are included in that initial investment, I call them 4 big components. The first one
Okay.
being the franchise fee.
Hmm.
The franchise fee, simply put, is for everything that's intangible that's associated with being part of a franchise organization. So the training, support, intellectual property, business systems, things of that nature. That's what you pay a franchise fee for, right?
Hmm.
Then you have your opening package. That's for everything that's tangible that you need to open your business. So the product samples that go along with the business, down to like pop-up displays for trade shows and computers and tablets and cell phones, and all the things that were physically tangible that you need to open your doors. That's another component of the investment. And then there's 2 other components of the investment that are really they're separate components, but they fall under the same category. One is having working capital set aside for marketing,
Hmm.
and the other is having working capital set aside just to have working capital set aside,
Right.
so that we can add staff and grow the business in that first year. So those are the 4 components of the investment, and they kind of just, as it relates to performance metrics, one of the things that we're really proud of is that if you look at the top 50% of our franchise owners, and I think that that's the place that we usually point to, and the reason why we do that is because um, the bottom 50 could be growing, the bottom 50 could be folks that have been around in our system for 20 years that maybe just came in under a different model. So the
Hmm.
top 50 percent of our franchise owners average right at about 1.8 million in sales,
Okay.
and so we're really proud of that. Every year that number ratchets up, but that's the number that I like to give, in a forum like this, without getting so granular
Sure.
on the top this, the top that, the bottom this, but just as a midpoint to look at. Top 50% are at 1.8 million.
Good deal. Thanks for sharing. And they can, review the franchise documents with you and get all kinds of information about that stuff, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and we've got way more metrics in the FDD, like and then on our website as well.
Let's talk a little bit about training and support. Walk us through what that training you mentioned about the 6 weeks, right? What does that training look like? How is it done? Where is it done? And then let's lead into the support component of once I'm open and operating, what does that look like?
Well, we're most proud of our team that we have here at Floor Coverings International and our training program. So immediately upon signing your franchise agreement, you are going into our training program. You will do online virtual training. We have a Floor University that you'll go on there. You work with our director of training, who happens to have been a franchisee, and he came onto our corporate team. So he knows what you're going through. He's able to relate to everything that's coming up. Then you go through a 1-week training that's still virtual, that is all about the sales process. And then you come to Atlanta and attend here. And this is the training there is all about getting your business ready, everything ready to go. And as Albert said, immediately after that, you leave. That Monday, you're going on appointments. During that appointment time, you have a designated operations person who is taking you through the first 90 days. That's his expertise, so getting people up and running. You're also still working with the director of training, and then you're assigned an operations person after 90 days that specializes in taking you from 90 days to 2 years. At 2 years, what you need, you don't need help with the small things. That's when you're ready to scale your business. So you go into our emerging operations team, and you'll be assigned a new operations person that they specialize in exactly growing your business, scaling, more profit, making sure your margins are good, working on all the different things that once you've been in business a couple of years that you're going to start to need support on. We have an entire marketing, we have an entire IT, we've spent millions of dollars on our IT, so there's all of that support as well.
You know, Amy, you pointed something out there, or I want to make sure to point something out of what you said there is quite a bit different than a traditional franchise, where a lot of times folks go through training, they're turned over to operations, and then they're with someone in operations for the rest of the time. What I really liked about what you said was it's not necessarily the exact same person because of the specialties of what that person needs during that time versus what that support person's going to be able to help them with. And then as that business matures, they need something different, because we all know that when someone comes on board, they need something different than when they're a 5-year franchise owner or even 15-year franchise owner, right?
Exactly. And we have seen, having this program, we have seen incredible, it's speed. It's how fast can you get to hit the goals that you're after. And this has helped by having people that specialize in where they are in their business. And if somebody goes faster, we're ready for that. And if somebody goes slower, we're ready for that as well. So we'll work with how the franchisee wants to go through their goals and their dreams.
Good deal. Well, this has been great so far, guys. I want to, as we wrap up here, I want to give you guys the last word to kind of recap for us and just walk us through, the short, information on, why somebody should think about doing this and what those first couple of things look like.
Yep, great. Well, I'll let Albert wrap it completely up, but I want to make sure that all of the females that are listening right now, we're all from the North and we say guys a lot, but what we really mean is people. Yeah. Women get our business. Obviously, we talked about women are the customer, but 40% of our franchisees are women. So we have, really? And we have, husband and wife and, fathers and sons and fathers and daughters, but 40% of our franchisees owners are women. So we're very proud of that. So I just wanted to, shout out to my women out there that although this is a male dominating industry, it's a great place for women because we're trusted in the home that we know about design.
Well, I want to, Albert, I'm sorry there, buddy, to interrupt before you get going on the recap, but I want to point out, folks, that I talk to a lot of franchise companies, and I don't know of another company that has 40% of their owners are women, right? So I talk to a lot of franchise companies. I've been doing this 11 years, and I don't know if any other company even comes close to that. That's really good to hear, for sure. Albert, can you take us through to the finish line here and then make sure that you also include how you would prefer someone does reach out to you if they're listening to the interview?
Awesome. Well, what I'll say is that I believe that we are the very best brand inside of home improvement. And I believe it from bottom of my heart. I've been in the industry for a while, like you, John, and we see all different types of brands, shapes and sizes. The reason why I believe that with the bottom of my heart is because first and foremost, we're owned by a publicly traded entity. We've got the backing of 30 years worth of experience. Ultimately, the brand's backed by a multi-billion-dollar company, and we're following the same growth trajectory as some of the most well-known names in home improvement. So if that's that's a good place to start, especially as people right now, as it relates to the economy, like everybody's got their own opinion, and some people think it's green light green, some people think it's red light red, and some people are in the middle, like lukewarm about the economy. Well, if you're lukewarm about the economy, well, then what better place to start than an organization that is backed by a multi-billion-dollar organization and has 30 years worth of a track record. But that's the one piece. The other piece is the industry, like we've talked about, is ripe for disruption. The industry needs somebody to do something different. The Amazonification of our world, the shop at home of our world, but also the thing that I think is really interesting about just what's going on in the landscape is millennials, my age group, that 30 to 40, we're the largest age cohort right now of individuals. And I'll throw myself under the bus. We're not the most handy, but we're also the people that are buying homes right now.
Right.
So when you're going to tell me that you're going to come to me with high level of service, not have to leave my home, and you're going to take care of everything for me, that speaks to me as a millennial home buyer, undoubtedly. So the business model, what we do right now in the economy that we're in right now, part of the organization that we are right now, there really is not a better brand inside of home improvement. So at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, if you're somebody that wants to grow and scale a large business, partner up with some of the most seasoned professionals in the industry, join a really what is it, I believe, an exciting industry, and help people fall in love with their home again. Like that whole appeal, you think of the HGTV shows at the end when the people walk back into their house and it's just like, wow, like my house is completely transformed. That's what we do every day. That's what our franchise owners love doing every single day. If that's appealing, we would love to speak to you. And as just being part of an organization that's all about the human to human interaction, that's how we differentiate ourselves. The best way for folks to get in touch with us, you can email us. My name is Albert, so you can do albert@floorcoveringsinternational.com. You could go to our website, floorcoveringsinternational.com, and at the very bottom you could hit franchise opportunities, or you could just go to flooring-franchise.com, and you could see a phone number there that you could dial, or submit a little inquiry on the website. But ultimately, you're going to hear from one of us personally, and as we engage in that process. But I couldn't be more excited for where we're at right now, John. I've been asked before what I love about the company, and there's two things I love about Floor Coverings International outside of what I just shared with you.
Okay.
Number one, our team is second to none. Just great people to be partners with. I think life's who you're doing it with. And so ultimately our franchisees love the culture that we've built. But also number two, we're in the middle of like this hockey stick growth. We know the roadmap to build one of the most well-known brands in home improvement. And we're right at the turn of the hockey stick in doing that. We've got about 200 locations, but we've got about 350 more marketplaces we've got to fill out. So it's just a super exciting time for us, and you're going to start to hear us on the radio and TV and things like that. That's really fun.
Well, guys, thank you so much. That was a great interview. Thank you so much for the extra time that you spent. Guys, we're here at the Franchise Radio Show with Albert Hermans, Vice President of Franchise Development, Amy Slosser, Senior Director of Franchise Development at Floor Coverings International. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you,
John.
We really appreciate it.